Good morning. Happy Father's Day to everyone. My name is Nate Jones, and I have the pleasure of being your worship associate this morning. I would ask that you please put your phones in worship mode. We welcome everyone here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, with a special welcome to those who are joining for the first time. We hope that you will stay afterwards for coffee in the fellowship hall. Let's take a second to turn around and say hi to our friends online. Hello, everyone. For those online, if you have a joy or concern to share during the Lifelines portion, please put it in the chat in the next 15 minutes. We acknowledge that our church resides on traditional lands of the Tutelo and Monacan nations and was later farmed and developed through slave labor. We recognize and respect the ongoing connection to this land by generations of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. May our gratitude and fellowship here echo and honor that rich history. Our minister is the Reverend Kirk Ballin, our Minister Emeritus. Reverend Walter LaFleur has been on medical leave. If we can take a minute to just send him some good vibes. Today's service will be led by our own Bill Bestpitch and is called What's Love Got to Do with It, Part 2. Please join me in reciting our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you're filled with sadness, overcoming with joy, or to engage with others. All who welcome all are welcome here. And our covenant, we commit to supporting each other with respect and communication.
Is Love Will Guide Us, number 131, and I don't think the hymnals will put out, so you'll just have to read it from the screen. Yeah.
Love will guide us. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
Everyone. I invite all the children to come down and those that are young at heart. Want to come, London? Okay. We have a special guest this morning. My granddaughter from Los Angeles, California is visiting us today. Why don't you go sit beside Emma over there so I can read the book, okay? All right, in continuing with the theme of love, we've got a book today that asks the question, what is love? What is love? When I was a boy in the garden out front of the house where we lived, I asked my grandmother, what is love? My grandmother was old. I thought she would know. She picked me up in her arms and said, I can't answer that. Who can, I ask? If you go out into the world, you might find an answer. See the grandmother hugging the little boy? So I went. I asked the fisherman, what is love? The fisherman smiled. Love is a fish. I asked the actor, what is love? The actor smiled. Love is applause. Applause? It's the hoots of the crowd, the sound of their hands. You stand in the footlights while they all scream your name. Sometimes they throw flowers. At that moment, you know you exist. You are seen. But the crowd leaves, I said. They go home. The actor sighed. You do not understand. I asked the cat, what is love? The cat smiled. Love is the night. The night, I said. That sounded all right. But before the cat could explain, a dog chased it away. Wait, I said. Stop. What is love? The dog looked back and said, this. Chasing the cat. That's love. I asked the carpenter, what is love? The carpenter smiled. Love is a house. A house? You hammer and saw and arrange all the planks. It wobbles and creaks, and you alter your plans. But in the end, the thing stands, and you live in it. I said, I'm not allowed to use hammers. Once I busted my thumb. I don't mean a real hammer. I'm not talking about thumbs. It got busted real bad. The carpenter sighed. You do not understand. The farmer told me love is a seed. The soldier told me love is a blade. That soldier told me love is a horse. But the cart driver said, no, it's a donkey. A sports car, a donut, a lizard, a ring. The first snow of winter, a maple in summer, a grizzly bear, this pebble right here. These are all things people told me love is. I asked the poet, what is love? The poet smiled. Sit down and I'll tell you, he said. A list so long it goes on for pages. I didn't have time to listen to that. Wait, said the poet, I have not answered your question. You sure haven't, I said. The poet shouted at me, you do not understand. And so one day I returned to the house where we lived. The lights were all on. I smelled dinner cooking. My dog barked gladly at me from a window upstairs. I took off my shoes and I stood in the garden. I curled my toes so they dug into the dirt. I sighed. Finally, finally, she said, you have come back. She was older. I was taller. She asked me, did you answer your question? I picked her up in my arms. I smiled. I said, yes. What do you think he meant by that? What do you think he meant that love is? You think maybe he meant his grandma and home? Thank you for listening. See, love is different for everybody, okay? Let's go upstairs and talk about what love is to you, all right? Thank you.
Today's reading is Look to This Day by Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the varieties and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of achievement, are but experiences of time. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. And today, well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation to the ever-new dawn.
Good morning. You know, it seems that a lot of Unitarian Universalists were quite surprised to learn that our annual General Assembly would not be considering an addition of a proposed eighth principle, or perhaps some tweaking or updating of the wording of our seven principles, maybe something more inclusive or more contemporary, whatever that means. They were not expecting a complete revision of Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, which deals with our principles and purposes. When they heard about a proposal to replace the seven principles with 6 values centered on love, I wonder if some folks were remembering Tina Turner's hit song from 1984. What's love got to do with it? She asked, what's love but a second-hand emotion? Can we live out our values, whatever they might be, by centering them on nothing more than a second-hand emotion? Now, to be candid, I'm not really sure what will happen at the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly beginning on Thursday and ending next Sunday. We have shifted gears so many times that I cannot predict what the delegates may do. Regardless, my message this morning is about what it would mean for us to center our values on love. We've been talking quite often about love already this year. For example, many of you will remember that Anatolu was our speaker at our service on December 31. She talked about New Year's resolutions, and she included some of her thoughts about love. 2 weeks later, our Minister Emeritus, Reverend Kirk Ballin, preached on love as the center of our values. Then on Easter Sunday, March 31, he told us that life and love are really all there is. On February 4, the Article 2 Task Force presented a service entitled, What's Love Got to Do with It? Hildy Getz and Henry Woodward did a great job of explaining that the proposed 6 values centered on love include every point of our existing 7 principles. So this morning I'd like us to think about the word love and how we use it. Then explore the Article 2 Study Commission, what they meant by saying that we should center our values on love. And finally, take a look at how we might be able to center our values on love if we want to. Love is both a noun and a verb. The noun refers to deep devotion or affection for another person or persons, even a strong sexual passion for another person. So love is something we look for. When we find it, or think we have, we want to hold on to it. The verb is much more powerful. It means to feel love or affection, to take pleasure or delight in, to like very much, and especially to show love. Using love as a verb, as something we do, puts us in control in a way that we never can be if we're looking for love as a noun, something we want and may or may not find, depending on what someone else does or doesn't do. When the Article 2 Study Commission said that we should center our values on love, I suggest that they were thinking along the lines of an article that appeared in the summer 2019 issue of UU World magazine by then UUA President, Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray. She wrote that love is not simply an emotion, a feeling, or an expression of the bonds of loyalty felt within a group. She said, love is a religious practice. It extends our compassion, solidarity, and care beyond the personal to seeking the liberation and wholeness of every person. It reminds us of our fundamental interdependence with all of us. Another concept of love comes from the Hawaiian word aloha, which some of you know is near and dear to my heart. It's often translated as nothing more than hello, goodbye, or I love you. Like many Hawaiian words, aloha is derived from a combination of other words and has more than one interpretation. When broken down, the literal translation of alo is presence or face, and ha means breath. So aloha connotes the presence of breath or the breath of life, the breath we share face to face, or my favorite transliteration, the breath that is shared between you and me. According to Skyline Hawaii blog, aloha is an essence of being, love, peace, compassion, and a mutual understanding and respect. Aloha means living in harmony with the people and land around you, with mercy, sympathy, grace, and kindness. When greeting another person with aloha, there is mutual regard and affection. There is warmth in caring for the other with no obligation to receive anything in return. So if we've thought about aloha as a way of saying I love you, we could say that living aloha means centering our values on love. It's not about some mushy or passionate romance that may or may not last. Instead, this is the concept behind the proposed values: committing ourselves and covenanting with one another to do our best to guide our lives by the principles of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Following love as a religious practice, as proposed by Reverend Dr. Frederick Gray, is something we must do and continue to do in a conscious and deliberate way. It's a spiritual discipline, a training of the mental, moral, and physical powers by instruction, control, and exercise. Loving intentionally requires us to make up our minds to love, even when someone does not seem to be all that lovable. Thomas Merton was a Trappist monk, writer, theologian, mystic, poet, and social activist. He said, "If we wait for some people to become agreeable or attractive before we begin to love them, we will never begin. If we are content to give them a cold, impersonal charity that is merely a matter of obligation, we will not trouble to understand them or to sympathize with them at all." Understanding and sympathizing are great as far as they go, but how far is that? Not very far, unless they inspire us to action. That's what we mean when we say that we covenant at UUCR to be a force for good in the world. If we take those actions begrudgingly, reluctantly, we will not be as effective as we will if we operate through loving what we do and loving those we may help along the way. As Reverend Kirk Ballin pointed out in the sermon he delivered on January 14, love is the only force that will transform the environment that will sustain human life and the biosphere as a whole. If you don't agree, please tell us what other force you think can create that transformation. James Baldwin said, "The longer I live, the more deeply I learn that love, whether we call it friendship or family or romance, is the work of mirroring and magnifying each other's light. Gentle work, steadfast work, life-saving work in those moments when life and shame and sorrow occlude our own light from our view. But there is still a clear-eyed, loving person to beam it back. In our best moments, we are that person for another." The preamble to our proposed new values and covenant says, "We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love." Each value includes a covenant with actions like protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. embrace our differences and commonalities, and dismantle racism and all forms of oppression. Outlining the work we must do and challenging us to develop the work plans to be the persons who lovingly magnify the light and beam it back to others. That's how we center our values on love. I came to the point about 50 years ago where I could just no longer believe in a virgin birth, resurrection from the dead, a God that was three persons, but really only one person, and a second coming to take the righteous people to heaven and condemn the wicked to hell. A few years later, I realized that it was a shame to abandon Jesus to the fundamentalists. Many of the teachings of Jesus still resonate with me. So when I think about the question of who deserves my love, I think of the answer that Jesus gave. A lawyer asked him to explain one day what he meant by love your neighbor. His question was, who is my neighbor? Just the sort of question that lawyers like to ask when they think somebody might not have a good answer. If you read the story carefully, you realize that Jesus never answered the question. Instead, he told a story of a man who came upon bandits who robbed and severely beat him, then left him by the side of the road. Along came a priest and then an assistant to the priest, but they just passed by on the other side. Then someone from another culture happened to come by, someone from a culture the victim's culture despised, someone who might not have been welcome if he had shown up at the victim's door. But he didn't pass by. He took pity on the wounded man, stopped, bandaged the wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the victim on his own donkey and took him to an innkeeper, paid him to take care of this stranger, and promised to return and reimburse any additional expenses. Perhaps taking a page from the lawyer's playbook, Jesus responded to his question with a question of his own. Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? In other words, don't ask who is my neighbor, because what you're really asking is who is worthy of my love. Instead, ask whether you are acting like a neighbor, especially toward those who obviously need your help but may not seem so lovable. And we call this story the parable of the Good Samaritan. But that's not the answer the lawyer gave. He said, the one who had mercy on him. There's nothing wrong with trying as hard as we can to be good. But showing mercy toward all those around us is how we demonstrate that we center our values on love. And that's how we build the beloved community. Another article by Reverend Dr. Frederick Gray appeared in the spring 2022 issue of UU World. She said, living into practices of the beloved community, living the transformative culture changes we seek, is not just an intellectual exercise. Fundamentally, it is deeply spiritual work, not about checking boxes, getting everything right, and taking pride in our achievements. She referenced Widening the Circle of Concern, the report of the UUA Commission on Institutional Change. They concluded, a Unitarian Universalism rooted in its theological traditions has no choice but to engage in practices of inclusion, diversity, and equity. In other words, moving from principles to values is moving from intellectual concepts to a call to action, moving from a focus on what we think to a focus on what we do. So if we want to start doing the hard work of a religious practice, a spiritual discipline of love, when should we begin? Quoting again from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, the time is always right to do the right thing. Don't you think it's time for us to begin today to practice the spiritual discipline of love? Isn't it time to begin keeping our covenants, to love intentionally, even when someone does not seem to be all that lovable? That's where the real work and the discipline come in, so we can begin building the beloved community.
The work of this church requires the time, talent, and treasure of many people. As we collect today's offering, know that your generous gifts will go towards furthering the missions of this church. Thank you for supporting this church and its mission to become a force for good in the world.
Good morning. My name is Sally Garber. It's my honor to represent the Caring Committee this morning. If you have a joy or concern, please take the time to notify a member of the Caring Committee by email or to call the church office so that we can share that information on Sunday morning. Excuse me. This morning I have some very sad news. Jim Haynes, a former board president and choir member, passed away suddenly on June 2nd of 2024. He was a man of few words and deep love. The choir is especially grateful to have sung with him and his daughter Shannon. As soon as possible, we'll get an address so that you can share with the family your thoughts. I also have a joy this morning. During the month of May, we collected $2,190 in donations to CASA. Thank you all so much for your generosity and support, of children. This morning, Catherine Hoffman has two joys to share. First of all, she had a lovely visit with Rev Walter on Friday. He was interested in the news from the church, and we laughed a lot. Second, our incoming minister, Rev Jen, was in town over this past weekend and met with several church members and staff. We look forward to having her here in August. Excuse me. I'd also like to share with you that Devin Gardner is having surgery at UVA on June 18th. The Caring Committee has created a sign-up genius to provide food for the next couple of weeks. So if you would like to help, please let a member of the Caring Committee know, and we'll share our sign-up genius with you. Another piece of good news, Betty Bright is ready for visitors. I have to warn you, however, that at Brandon Oaks Rehab, she goes under Betty Hancock. So if you want to visit her, tell them you're looking for Betty Hancock. She is in room 113, and she and Tim Andriano, I think, are having a good time over there at Brandon Oaks. So if you would like her address, I've put it in the Caring Committee book, so look for it if you'd like it. I have a joy that you already got to see this morning. Bonnie Edwards shared that she has her cute granddaughter, who I think you all just saw this morning with her from California. So if you get a chance, say hello to her. She's a darling. One last thing. Bill Bestpitch will be having medically necessary eyelid surgery on both eyes on Monday. He's supposed to do nothing for 2 weeks. Sherry says, we'll see how that goes. If you would like to light a candle for a joy or concern that you're holding on your heart this morning, please come forward to the music meditation and use both sides of the altar as you do. Thank you.
Come, Spirit God.
hearts be restored.
Please join me in a few moments of meditation and prayer. This prayer is adapted from the work of our brothers and sisters in the Mennonite Brethren tradition. Live generously, with open hands, loving one another as if our lives depended on it, because they do. Be good stewards of the gifts you have received, sharing the greatest gift of all by loving inclusively.
Just two announcements today. I think we've all gotten a taste of the summer heat, whether we like it or not. But like all things, that heat, or the summer heat will be fleeting, and before we realize it, we're going to have to heat the building again. As many of you know, we're raising $53,000 to replace the boiler and the heating system. And so far, we've raised $32,000 of that, which is outstanding. But we do have to get all the way to the finish line. If you're interested in donating, please see the details in the announcements section, or you can donate online or email Gordon. Second message is from Yvette LaFleur. She's updated Rev Walter's page on CaringBridge. You can go to caringbridge.org and enter Walter LaFleur in the search bar at the top. She has a forum that she's trying to get some assistance for people who can come and sit with him if she needs to be away from the house. That is it.
So our closing music is Love Can Build a Bridge, and the Judds sang this. And Bill was originally going to play a video, but I would never pass up an opportunity to sing a country song. So, which many of you might not know about me, but I love country music. So the Judds are going to sing with me. And we hope you'll join in at the end. Across the desert with no shoes upon my feet, to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge
Some words to take with you to your week. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. And now we extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls, to the world we live in until we are together again. Aloha.